interesting guest tonight. He is from New Hampshire. He had a very interesting experience happened to him in New Hampshire in 2022. I'm going to bring him on in a minute, and he can fill in the rest of the story. But buckle in. This is going to be a good one. Welcome, Jack, to Beyond Top Secret. Jack, how are you, sir?
Hey, doing well. How you doing, Joe?
I am doing pretty well, thanks. Thanks for joining us. And you have a pretty interesting story. I think Martin from Podcast UFO connected us. He said, this guy has a pretty cool experience that you might want to hear about and that your listeners might want to hear about. So if you can, take me back to 2022 when this happened and kind of walk me through the exact moment you first noticed what was happening, what caught your eye, the sound, anything you can remember.
Yeah, sure. So it was back in October 2022. It was a Saturday night, probably right around 7:45 p.m. So not too late, but at that time, it was definitely, I'd say, completely dark. Like you could see the skies, the stars out in the dark sky at night. So I went out to just go grab my local jug food for the night for dinner. I think I was getting a barbecue chicken calzones, my go-to at the local pizza shop in town, probably 5 minutes down the road. Yeah. And I walk out of the pizza shop, and right above the tree lines, I just happened to notice I was getting into my car, and there was this bright red and like pulsating white glowing light. And it was probably about 400 feet in the air, 100 meters. So right at treetop. And I would watch it. And then before I got in my car and I started laughing, I was like, is this like my genuine UFO moment? And I just keep watching it. And I'm like, it's going to I'm going to hear a rotor or something. Something's going to happen. Or I'm going to be like, I know what that is. But it just keeps bobbing along the treetop. And it even shut off its light at one point. And I stood there waiting before I got in my car, kind of bummed because I thought, it disappeared. But then further along down the treetop line, it reappeared, the same glowing red white light. It was probably at that point maybe 2 blocks away from me in the sky, so whatever, I don't know, maybe 1,000 feet, 500 feet away, I'm not sure. Anyways, I'm looking at it, it reappeared. I was like, okay, well, I could either go back inside the pizza shop and get other people to come out and look at it with me, but I didn't want to sound like a Looney Tune and be that guy who's like, hey, there's a UFO outside, you guys should come check it out. Like I didn't know anybody in the shop. So I just got in my car and I followed it. Probably maybe 4 blocks in town. I'm driving through like a private residential area, just a bunch of single family homes, probably for about 2-3 minute car ride. And I follow this light. I'm just looking outside of my car like a crazy bird, driving down the road, cross the train tracks, and it stops over this person's house. So at this point, it's below the tree line. And I get out of my car and I'm right across the street looking up at this person's house, probably at like 7:50 p.m. at this point. And it's just floating there and it's completely silent, Joe. I was probably 200 feet away from it. I could literally throw a rock at it if I wanted to. Obviously I might hit their window. I didn't do that. And I just stood there watching it, kind of pretty much awestruck. And I have a lot of opinions about my own sighting as well, because people are always going to ask, well, did you get a picture of it? Did you get it on camera? And I have a lot to say about that in my own experience. But no, I didn't. I was just staring there looking at it. And as it's glowing, this red, it was super bright. I mean, the luminosity on this thing was unlike anything I've ever seen, and it was totally silent. I own a DJI drone myself, and those things are super loud with those tiny little propellers on it once you hear it flying. And at that height, you're going to hear it. Maybe not at 400 feet, but definitely at rooftop level, you're going to hear the buzzing of those rotors, and there were none. But anyways, it shut its light off again directly over this person's house. And so let me back up. Before this happened to me, I was not a UFO guy or a UFO head or into the topic like I am today. Absolutely, I am. I mean, whenever I go on shows, I like to wear my Red Rippers t-shirt, the squadron that Ryan Graves flew in, and he was kind enough to even sign the shirt for me, which was awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
But like I would never, prior to this event, I wasn't gonna be chasing down some guy named Ryan Graves who flew with the Red Rippers in the United States Navy because he was he spoke about his UFO experiences with the military in front of like I wasn't going to do that. But after this experience, you bet I definitely made sure I made that happen. But so I say that to say I didn't know what I was looking at, and when it shut its light off, I don't pretend to be the smartest person on this earth. I'm certainly not. I literally I thought in that moment, I honestly thought I thought it vanished. I thought it disappeared. I thought it like disappeared out of thin air like a magic trick. And I was like, "Oh, that's weird. It's not there anymore." But now that so that was when it shut its light off, it kind of wasn't very eventful at that point. I literally I walked away from it. I'm pretty sure I voluntarily walked away from a UFO flying orb, unfortunately, which one of my biggest regrets. But I honestly thought it disappeared and I wasn't seeing it. But since that happened, I obviously became a UFO guy and started looking at all the historical cases and getting caught up to everything, up to speed on everything with that was going on at the time with the UFOs. This was prior to the big congressional hearing with Grush at this point. And I'm pretty sure it was still there because when I recollect on what happened that night, when it shut its light off, I was so close, about 200 feet away, that it was nighttime. So you have the night sky behind it, but when it shut its light off, I could still see a dark center mass. And then there were these squiggly lines that looked like they were moving around this dark ball, like center mass. It was relatively small. Like when it shut its light off, that dark center mass with the squiggly lines around it could have fit inside your standard like American sedan vehicle here that we have here in the States. And it was, I was trying to say it, that dark center mass, it was darker than the night sky. And the night sky was already really dark. I've never seen anything that bright and then get that dark. Almost like there was a void of light, which I don't know if that's the right way to describe it. I don't have the vocabulary to describe something I saw for the first time in my life. I didn't know what it was. So I have a hard time describing what I saw with the vocabulary that I have currently. But in a nutshell, that was my sighting. Those were the details that I saw. I tried to give you as much information as I could, but it was when you're that close to it, I mean, I just can't forget it, Joe. Like I'm never gonna like I saw something that was not a helicopter, a plane, somebody's flashlight, some toy in some kid's backyard. It was totally, I hate to use the word, anomalous. Like it didn't belong. It belonged. It was there. It was doing something, and I saw it.
Right.
But I to this day have no idea what that was, and it was totally silent.
And it's funny that you brought up Ryan Graves because what you're saying kind of goes back to what his main messaging is safe skies. And if it's not a helicopter, it's not a drone that we know of, your everyday drones. It's not a passenger plane or anything like that. We should have an idea of what's in the skies above us. Commercial pilots should know what's in the skies with them. This doesn't sound like it was any of that. And I do have some questions on the characteristics of whatever this thing was. Could you describe its flight path? Was it like a smooth and steady glide? Was it skipping? Was it changing speeds at all? Or was it pretty concurrent all the way through?
Yeah, as far as speed, it was traveling at a very low rate of speed. So I couldn't tell you how fast, but obviously it was going slow enough where I drove literally like 3 to 5 blocks in my car down the road and then caught up to it. So it was not in a rush. And then flight path, that's a good question. I left that detail out. It bobbed like a buoy in the ocean. It was doing this as it went across I had the treetop for reference when I was at the pizza shop at this point, so I could see the trees. And then when it had its light on, not when it shut its light off, when I was that far away, I couldn't see it. It looked like a dark sky. It like blended in with the night sky behind it. But yeah, it was like bobbing like a buoy in the water. So I guess a lot of people would describe that as floating, but take that
That's
what you
pretty
will.
interesting because that's
Mm.
different. That's very different. Like I was expecting you to say, it was just kind of flying like anything else would fly, but that kind of motion seems a little different than a helicopter or a plane or even a drone. So that's an interesting characteristic. How about how long would you say the whole transition took from the moment you saw it like pulsating like an orb to the moment it shut its lights off? How long are we talking?
Yeah, maybe from start to finish, maybe the whole encounter was probably like, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, 15 tops.
Yeah, it's a
I
pretty
mean,
good
I
amount
was
of time.
standing, yeah, yeah. I mean, the car ride itself from the pizza shop to that random person's house in town was probably like 3 to 4 minutes in around there. And then I spent some time standing across the street like a crazy person at night, staring at their house for like a good
Who's
like
this guy
five
outside our
minutes.
house?
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember looking down the street too. I remember turning around and looking. I mean, it's a town where probably about 17,000 people live here. So it's not a big place. Not a lot of people live here. But I just remember, I mean, it wasn't like it was almost 8 o'clock and nobody was walking their dog. Like nobody was out. Nobody was walking. I wanted somebody to be there with me to see what I was seeing, and there was no one. It was very weird, but maybe it was just a coincidence.
Yeah, who knows? I think there's so much that could, was this thing showing, one could think, was this thing showing itself just to me? Is that why there was nobody around? Was it just a coincidence that there's nobody around? If you're into this subject for so long that you hear so much of both sides, is it just me? Am I the only one aware of it? Is it communicating with me directly? Or is it all by chance? Who the hell knows? But I think I find the lighting interesting. Was the lighting, when you look at the light on a passenger plane or anything like that, how
Yeah.
would you compare the light on this object compared to the light on a passenger plane? Was it blinking, pulsating? Like, did the red and white seem to mix, or were they distinct? Like, say, like a white core with a red ring around it, or did it alternate? Like, how did it look?
Yeah. And that's a good clarifying question. So let me try to be as specific as possible because, again, it wasn't anything that I'd seen before, but it was not like a strobe light like you'd see on an aircraft. There was no blinking. It was a solid, like the light was on for however long it wanted to be on, but there was no strobing or blinking. It was just on, like your light in the room. And then to answer your question, I had described it as red and white. It wasn't two separate lights that were just on. Rather, it was one solid ball of light that instead of it just being one color, it was literally two. Like it would, and when I say pulsate, the colors were mixing with each other, almost like, I mean, you and I have never seen the actual sun. We would never want to get that close, anyways. But I think I'm pretty sure they're fake images that are shared with us in movies or whatever. But the sun is always depicted as like there's stuff moving in the sun. It's that lava kind of look. I would
Yeah.
love to know what the sun actually looks like, but it kind of looked like it was like a molten. I don't know if that's the right word to describe it, but it was just a
Yeah, I
mixture
get
of
like
red and white
lava,
light that
sort of
was,
like. Is that what you
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah, like lava that's like constantly spinning over itself, but but with red and white light. And then it was mostly red with the white like mixed in. And I'm making like a motion with my hand here like a ball because it was a ball of light. So I don't know if that makes any sense.
Was the whole craft the light, or was there a light on a craft?
There was no, it was just, there was no structured craft. It was just a floating light from 200
It
feet.
was just the light. Okay.
That I could see, and it was so bright. Like I remember thinking when it shut its light off, Joe, I was staring like a moth to a flame. Like I couldn't look away from this thing. I was just curious. what it was. And when it shut its light off, I literally thought I was seeing spots in the sky, in the night sky, because the pulsating light from this floating thing in the air was so bright. I like, when you look at the sun at the beach, like you're going to get spots in your vision during the day, but I thought I was getting that at night. But I'm pretty confident that it was still there. It shut its light off and there was a dark center mass. And the reason why I say that is because usually with spots in your vision, there's no squiggly lines around the dots that you're seeing in your vision. And I saw, like, when it shut its light off, I like to believe, I don't know for sure, but that looked like the structure to me. And it was a dark center ball mass. There was too small to have somebody in it with a squiggly line around it. And the line itself was moving when its light was off. Like I could see it like static electricity.
Yeah, exactly.
Going all the way around.
Yep, I have a follow-up question for you in a little bit, which actually says exactly that about static electricity.
Sure.
But I just want our viewers at home who are watching to think about this. When you normally think about a UFO sighting, you're thinking about something way off in the sky, way above you. Think about Jack standing there. This is right at the roof of a house, basically the distance, correct?
Yes.
That's pretty darn close to you.
Yep.
And with these, just an orb of light, like pulsing light, like Jack was describing, that is pretty incredible.
It was. I agree. It was pretty cool.
I wish I saw it. Maybe one day. Did the shape never changed that you saw? It was always the same consistent orb of light.
Good question.
Other than when it shut the light off.
Yeah, no, it from what I could tell, it was not like shape shifting or anything. But your question made me think of a detail that I forgot to share, that I've shared in the past, is similar to, I don't know if you or your listeners are familiar with I think it's Steubenville, Texas UFO case. Netflix did a series on it. Steubenville.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, and they describe the same floating orbs, but they also have radar data to corroborate. I think it was like at least 100 witnesses in Texas saw this thing. I think there were a couple of them, maybe.
A great episode of UFO Hunters, which was a show on probably about 10 years ago or so. It was an awesome show about UFOs, but they did a special on the Steubenville,
great case,
Texas incident. Yeah, it's a fascinating case.
They had Air Force fighter jets too chase after the orbs too with the radar. It was just a good case. Anyways, what I was trying to say was, just like how they described their orb sighting down there, I borrowed from that after I had my sighting and I saw the Steubenville case. When I heard this lady describe what she saw, when I was looking for answers, I was looking at I was going through a bunch of different UFO cases trying to find answers to what I saw. And when this lady said, when she described the orbs that they saw down in Texas and Steubenville, I keep forgetting, but she said you couldn't see in it and you couldn't see through it. And that was exactly what I experienced when I saw that floating light. It was so bright, Joe, I couldn't see in it. So I didn't know there was like a dark center mass with like a squiggly static moving line around it until the light went off. In other words, the luminosity on this thing was masking whatever it was. It was so bright. It was like the light, it was the light itself until it shut its light off. If that makes any sense, which it might not.
No, it does. And you wonder, it's a beam of light, but if it shuts, it's not a beam, whatever, a light. It was just a light. So when it shut its lights off, it makes you think, well, if it's not just a ball of light, if it can shut its light off, what the hell is it? Is there people inside of it or beings? Like, because it doesn't sound like a craft, right? It sounds like just a ball of energy going through the sky. So
yes, yep,
yeah, that'll really make you think, like, what is in this thing? If it's not just a ball of energy and it's not just a ball of light of energy, and it can shut its light off and it's a solid
turn it on.
object, right? What is controlling it and where are they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ooh,
I mean
I just got
that's
goosebumps. Yeah.
yeah, it's a pretty heavy question, and
Yeah. And what are they
right.
doing
I
in a
mean,
town of
because I think that's the
17,000
core to the
people?
whole.
Go ahead.
Right. And I just said this to somebody. Somebody asked me. I think when I was on Martin's podcast, it was a question. Somebody asked if I see patterns of where these sightings are, because on my website, www.thecontactreport.com, we have a mechanism where people can submit sightings. And we get a lot of sighting reports through it. There's all name, email, what'd you see, when'd you see it, where'd you see it, all that. So when we get these, I'll get the coordinates or wherever it was, and I'll keep track of kind of where these sightings are taking place. And I have to say, there is a pattern of sightings where they're not near any major military bases. They're not over any critical infrastructure.
Yes.
They're just over small towns.
Yep.
And that'll make you think, why would they just be over small towns? Other than the only thing I can think of is why they would be over residential areas is what would they want in a residential area? Is people,
Yeah.
right?
30 feet above someone's roof. Yeah.
Right. So
Kinda
when you
weird.
hear about sleep paralysis, people suffering from sleep paralysis where they can't move while they're sleeping, or these vivid dreams, like God knows what's really going on and why these sightings keep happening in these areas.
Yep.
Definitely will make you think. It does me. So let's talk about the bubble around the center. Did it look like a physical glass dome or anything around it, or did it look fluid?
I
Or
wouldn't
did
say
it just look
definitely
like a
not a
shadow?
dome. There was the shadow center mass was in the middle. That definitely looked like a shadow or spot in my vision. But it was just a squiggly line. It was a squiggly line like I don't know, like you'd see in a cartoon about electricity like buzzing around. It was caught the line itself, and it could have been a couple of different lines or one, I couldn't tell, but it was squiggling all the way around. So it wasn't a dome. It looked 2D to me. Like I didn't see, like from what I was looking at, it looked flat. But I think from my vantage point and how my eyes were literally just staring at some bright light for 5 minutes. I'm sure I wasn't able to see clearly, like in terms of depth. But I
Do
wouldn't
you
say it
think
was
those
like,
squiggly lines, maybe you just said that and I missed it. You said you saw
yeah.
squiggly lines. Could those
Hmm.
squiggly lines be from you staring at the light, you think? Or were those
Could have
squiggly
been.
lines there?
It could have been from me staring at that bright light. I'm certainly not dismissing that, but for whatever why I think it's not that, I felt like it was there based on what I was seeing, just because I could see the night sky behind it, and it was obstructing it wasn't blending in with the night sky. It was darker than it. I could see it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. So when this was going on, did you notice any changes in your immediate environment? So when you were closest to it, was there any change in like street lights? Did street lights flicker? Did the electronics in your car change? A skip in the radio? Anything like that?
No, nothing in the car. And I don't remember about the streetlights, honestly. And in all fairness, I wasn't looking at them. Like
No, I get
from
it.
the moment I was driving to when I got out, my eyes were only on that red and white light. So I wasn't really. But I'm pretty sure the streetlights were still on. But I don't remember any flickering.
Okay. How about your perception of time? Did time feel altered? Did more time pass than you thought? Like, oh my God, I thought that was only 10 minutes and an hour went by. Anything like that?
Not to my knowledge, no. Again, I was holding I had dinner with me, so it was a warm calzone, and I went back home and ate my dinner that night, and I'm pretty sure I think it was still warm. Honestly, I don't remember, but I don't think I nuked it or put it in the microwave to heat it up. So that would be the only thing I would know, but no missing time. I don't think so that I can recall.
Okay. Were there any emotional changes? Did your mood change, or did you get emotional, or anything noticeable like that?
extremely excited. I remember when I first saw it at the pizza shop outside of my car before I got in it, I was literally laughing like out loud. So I was elated, like I was excited and super happy. That definitely immediately changed right when I saw it. I don't know if it was related to, it could have just been me because like I grew up like a sci-fi kid and I was like, oh man, like am I getting my moment? So that could have been individual to me, not necessarily related to what I was interacting with. But that was pretty much it,
That makes
emotion
sense.
wise.
I'd probably feel the same exact way. I never saw a UFO. I hope to someday. Every night I'm walking my dog, I'm like, show yourself to me, please.
Yeah,
But
right.
they haven't. Yeah, I must not be a good summoner. Um, did you feel at all like you were watching it or that it was aware of you at all? Did it react to you at all, you think?
Not that I noticed. Nope. If anything, I guess you could assume that it allowed me to follow it and it let me stop on the side of the street and look at it. But from my perspective, I felt like it was doing its own thing, flying around. It had some kind of destination in mind. It happened to stop at this right above this person's house. And then the turning the light on and off, that also seemed benign. Like I couldn't tell why it was doing that, but I saw it do it. I saw it shut its light off over the house. I never saw it turn it back on because it stayed. I don't remember the duration of time that I was standing there looking at it when its light was off. That might be the reason why I choose to believe I wasn't seeing spots in my vision. I think it was just the dirt. Like I blinked a bunch of times and it didn't like move. It was like still there. But anyways, I saw it. The turning on and off its light seemed also benign. Like it would not that it was on a sequence, but it did it once while it was at the treetops and then turned back on. And then from the treetops to the house, it kept its light on the whole time. And then it let me look at it with its light on above the house, not moving. And then it just turned itself off. So
you
yeah,
didn't get any indication that it might have shut its light off because you were looking at it?
I don't
Nothing
think
like
so
that.
because it
Nothing
let
that
me
you would
look
know.
at it. Not that I could tell, no. Because if it was in a town where there's no one around, so like you would have seen my car. It would have known
Right.
that I was on my way coming to take a peek, and it could have shut its light off way earlier than it did. If it was trying to hide itself, then it didn't notice me for like a good 4 minutes standing there on the side of the street at 200 feet away. So
Right. Did you ever find out, not, and if you did, don't say his name on here, but did you ever find out who lived in that house?
man, so I didn't piece together the house, and this sounds so weird, until maybe a year and a half after, maybe even 2 years, that I even got the first thought to write a letter in the mail. I created a dummy email address. I put the email address in this handwritten letter and I mailed it to that person's house because I didn't even think. I was always thinking, oh, so cool. I saw this thing, blah, 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 me. I didn't even think about who was in that goddamn house. And who knows if it was related to whatever it was doing above there. Didn't even think about that for maybe 2 years after it happened, which is crazy. But I did mail a letter to the house. I never got a response back. I've never knocked on their. I walk past their house all the time. I always look up right above their roof, right where that spot was. And I even got a drone and flew the exact flight path that this thing
That's
flew.
awesome.
Like I'm not even a drone guy, but
That's
I bought
really
a drone
awesome.
because I saw this stupid thing. I know. It totally like burned a memory in my brain, and I can't let it go, Joe. Can't do it.
No, I wouldn't either. I give you a lot of credit for staying on it and not just saying, "Hey, I saw something cool once." It's pretty cool. I think it speaks to you, who you are as a person, that you're trying to get to the bottom of it. And it just hit me now. I've seen UFO Jack a couple times on my Twitter, and that must be you, huh?
Yep.
Is that your name on Twitter? Okay,
Yep.
perfect. I'll make sure I follow you. And everybody out there, follow UFO Jack on Twitter. And after we're done, he'll announce everything he has going on. But he's a pretty awesome guy. I have heard of things like this before. I think they're called like negative space objects or blacker than black anomalies.
Oh,
I
okay.
have heard about them in the past, so if you're curious, Google it. And from what I remember, the craft, who knows if this is right, it's just speculation, but the craft seems to use ambient light to shut its lights off and it still remain visible. I forget the physics of it or whatever, but it was something to do with using the ambient light around it. But Google those names. Maybe you could learn something more about it. And do you think, well, actually, well, going back to the person that lived in the house, I think it would be curious to find out, who knows, does this person work for the government or a defense contractor?
Yeah.
Something like that. Is that why they
Retired
responded to the
admiral.
letter? Right,
Yeah.
something like that. Who the hell knows? Because
Yep.
Exeter, New Hampshire does have a history of, are you
It
familiar
does.
with the Exeter UFO sighting?
Before I had my sighting in 20, I've lived in the town for 10 years. I moved there in 2016, so I had lived there for I can't do the quick math without it being wrong, but I lived there for many years, and I never went to this UFO festival. I always thought it was cool. Like I was a sci-fi guy. I was like, cool. The town I moved to, they have a UFO festival. Like how funny. Like all the kids get dressed up. It's super cute, and all the families come out, walk around, and they put the little alien eyes on their
Wow,
heads
I
and
didn't
shit.
know that
But
happened either. That's pretty cool. What's it
yeah,
called?
and I think they just call it like Exeter's UFO Festival, I
Oh,
think.
that's cool.
But they do it to memorialize a famous UFO incident that Project Blue Book actually investigated, which I had no idea. Um, Again, red lights, but these people saw a structured craft back in 1966. It was a civilian and two police officers in Exeter saw it. And so, yeah, they do. It's a fundraising event for, I forget where they donate the funds to, but it's a great little event that they do there. So, yes, Exeter does have prior history with floating red lights and structured craft that people can't seem to explain around here. So,
Yeah, it's a pretty famous sighting. Anybody out there, just Google the Exeter, New Hampshire UFO sighting. It's a pretty interesting case.
it was.
Anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to cover?
I have seen other like UFO sightings. I know you had mentioned the word summon. I would like to share some of my own experiences with like meditation and things like that I tried last year, just to see, just in case if anybody else is interested in this on the internet when they hear it. But if not, no worries, we don't have to cover it.
No, man, let's go. I'm not on a time limit. Let's do it.
So personality wise, I would say like I'm the type of person where like if you say you can do something, I'm gonna try it. So I know you're probably familiar, Joe. They always say consciousness, and you got folks like Stephen Greer, you got the psionic bros from the military industrial complex that I like to joke, the Skywatcher team doing their thing, and there's always been that kind of, when you do research on this subject and you treat it like an academic subject, I would say the whole calling them in or summoning or meditating, whatever, psionics, whatever you want to call it, is definitely part of the topic. I just don't know how much. So anyways, I had my sighting in 2022. From 2022 up until to 2025, well, the present day, I just keep researching UFO cases. But in 2025, I decided, I was like, I keep seeing this meditation consciousness thing. Like I keep reading about it in all these cases, so I might as well try it. And I did. So I started meditating. I saw like a Stephen Greer video somewhere online where like he had some kind of protocol. I didn't follow it exactly. I just would, the CE5 thing. And I just started meditating. And honestly, before 2022, I would have been laughing at myself talking about this. But like, just full disclosure, just having an honest conversation, I did some meditation, and I'd like to think I had some results, and I can certainly share those with you. But this is way more anecdotal in the sense that I was never able to get anything 200 feet away from me like I did back in 2022 initially. But I did have a lot of weird things start to happen that I could be a coincidence, and it could absolutely be nothing. And I'm more than willing to admit that. But I will say, when I stopped meditating because it began too much for me, I felt like I was losing, not like losing grip with reality, but I felt like there was this is so weird. It felt like I was, like I had the Earth version of me, you and I here, but then there was this other part of me that was real, or no, I mean, it was real, but it was in a figment of your, I don't want to call it my imagination, but I guess you could. Anyways, it was just too much. I got a little scared, but like I've had things, last year I was playing around with it, and I got to meet Ryan Graves, like out of the blue. Maybe that was a coincidence, but he was nice enough to meet me one-on-one. We got drinks at a bar in New Hampshire, and then he signed a t-shirt for me. Like, and that was right around the time when I started meditating. Yeah. And it was all related to the UFO subject. And I got 2 UFO jobs working for 2 prominent YouTubers during around that time last year, with Chris Leto, the former F-16 fighter pilot, and his channel. And then, Martin Willis, I did some work for him as well, and all that. So those things started happening. But then I also had like, more back to like the phenomenon. Like, are you familiar with Dr. Stephen Greer's work and the type of things that they would see out in the field with their field work?
Yeah, I actually just wrote a big deep dive article on him and how his money making machine. Now that doesn't take away from the summoning aspect of it. That may very well be legit. I was more a deep dive on the grifting and the money making machine behind them. However, let's not confuse that with the summoning. That doesn't mean the CE5 protocol itself doesn't work or that summoning doesn't work. So I kind of like separate those things. But anyway, so I am familiar. Yeah.
So in short, in my opinion, while I was meditating probably a few times a week, pretty regularly for like a good, I'd say 10-month period, I had weird thing. I would always see something outside. I would always go for night walks, and I would always see something that I thought wasn't a satellite or just a regular star. To note, one of the instances, like Stephen Greer will often, I notice a lot of people report seeing, they call them, I think, streakers or whatever, or streamers, maybe. That might not be the right word. But streamers where it looks like a meteor falling out of the sky, but then as you see it from, and this is from thousands of miles away. So like it could have been a meteor, but it slowed down, and then it kind of trickled along a line, and then it sped up and kept going. And in my experience, I've seen plenty of meteors and all sorts of things fall out of the sky, and it's usually a straight linear path that doesn't slow down and then speed back up. So I had that happen once. I remember I had this other instance where in my neighborhood, there were these 2 like floating little, I mean, it could have been a satellite, but I saw 2 of them floating at pretty low altitude, maybe 5,000 feet, well above the trees, but not as low. But they were both, it looked like they were both following each other, and they like kind of went over our neighborhood. And I saw, anyways, that could have been anything, but this is a lot more anecdotal. But, and then I remember there was another incident where I was just driving around the street, and I saw a giant white ball of light literally come straight down to treetop level, and then it just disappeared and vanished. I pulled over on the side of the road, because it was close enough where, similar to, I wouldn't say 200 feet, but maybe like 1,000 feet away, I just pulled over on the side of the road and tried to, I thought maybe I was going to see another red orb, but I couldn't find whatever it was. But it was weird in the sense that it wasn't, usually when you see a meteor, it's at an angle, like a diagonal angle from like the upper left down to the lower right. But this was literally just a vertical white line, white light just that came right down. A white ball. Yeah. I remember I pulled over. I was late for a call. My sister got mad at me because she was like, "What the hell took you so long?" I was like, I didn't want to tell her what I thought I saw.
An alien. Right.
It could have been a drone, but that could have been a drone. Could have been a meteor. Who knows? And then I had weird things happen inside my house as well. And feel free to stop me whenever if it's things you don't want to cover.
I want to hear what happened inside the house in particular.
And let me preface it with this. I'm not again, I was not a UFO guy before 2022. I wasn't into psionics or meditation or any of that stuff. I don't even do it anymore. I stopped. But this part kind of scared me a lot in my own bedroom. This happened probably maybe like February of 2025, March, but there was the 3 different nights. I don't think it was consecutive nights, but maybe it happened within, I don't remember anymore, but let's say a 2-week time frame. There were 3 nights where a yellowish white light with no origin point of like where the light came from. It just there was a square yellow light that appeared on the wall where I was sleeping, right above my head. And it was right before, like, when you lie in bed and you're waiting to fall asleep, it would happen during those moments. So like I was lying in bed and my girlfriend's sleeping next to me, already asleep. And then this bright light just flashes on the wall behind me. My heart jumps up into the middle of my throat. Super scared. My blinds were drawn. There was no light coming into the room. And it lasted maybe like a second or two. It scared me enough where I slept in the other room for the night. And I left her in there, but it didn't seem to like bother her or anything. But I didn't want to wake her up, but it freaked me out. And then I happened a second night where a different wall, and I know all 3 points, like, oh, Joe, it's so funny. But anyways, it happened. There was a different size yellowish white square that flashed on the wall while I was waiting to fall asleep. And then the third night, it happened on the third wall. So there's 4 walls in your bedroom in this one. And the third wall was different. It flashed on the wall for a few moments, and I'm talking seconds. And inside the yellowish white light that flashed on the wall as I'm waiting to fall asleep it looked like there was like a shadow in the illuminated yellow white square that was moving, almost like doing hand puppets on the shadows on the back of your wall. That was weird.
Wow.
And it didn't happen once. It didn't happen twice. It happened 3 times, and I saw it 3 times. And I thought, maybe am I having an ocular migraine? But I talked about it with an ophthalmologist, and it didn't meet the criteria of an ocular migraine or anything like that, or an aura migraine. A bunch of stuff can happen with your vision that's really rather prosaic, but I haven't been able to find an explanation for that. That was weird. And then there was also last year, or this would have been maybe the fall of 2024 leading into 2025. I did wake up, and this was kind of weird. And again, I'm just telling you like it is. I'm not saying it's anything. I'm sharing it because I'm sharing a bunch of things that have happened to me that could be related to the meditation, might not be, and it could be totally coincidental and totally normal. But I did wake up one morning where I had, it was either 3 or 4, I no longer remember, but I had circular bruises on my left arm that were rather small, kind of like fingerprint size, on my upper left bicep. And then I had a super painful like soreness in the crevice of my elbow, like almost as if like I went to the lab the day prior to draw blood, and maybe the lab technician had trouble finding the vein, and they might have had to fish around for it a little bit. It kind of felt like that kind of bruised soreness, but the bruising wasn't near where all the pain was in the crevice of my elbow. But I did have the 3 circular bruises in my upper arm up on my bicep, which was just, again, not saying it was anything, but it definitely happened. And I did not go to the doctors that week, and I did not have blood drawn.
Did they look like fingerprints or anything like that?
No, just circular bruises. I took a picture of it and everything, but the picture, you can't really, it's always better in person, but it didn't really capture what I remember seeing. But yeah, it was, but so all that happened like around the time when I started, trying out the whole meditation thing. And do I think there's something to it? Yeah, I don't do it anymore. It was, oh yeah, one last thing. Again, this is, and it might not be related to the UFO thing, but I thought it was a weird coincidence that also happened. during the meditate while I was playing around with that activity, if you will, extracurricular activity. The one day in broad daylight, was driving down my road going back to my house, and just out of the corner of my, not the corner of my eye, it was in my field of vision, probably on the left hand side of the road, there was just a black void silhouette. Again, it only lasted about a second or two, no more, no less, but it was solid black. And I remember I blinked, and in that moment I was like, probably nothing, no big deal, never thought about it again. It was a dark, like the void of light, but in the shape of like a silhouette of like someone's shadow, but standing right on the front lawn in broad daylight. Anyways, I thought I was just blinking, whatever. And then several months later, my girlfriend puts these Christmas lights up in our apartment, and I was still meditating at this point. And the lights, while we're watching TV, they just turned on. And I was like, I did not turn those on. Did you turn those on? And we spent like a good 45 minutes bickering back and forth, like, I didn't do it, you did it, blah, 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 blah. And then later that day, I bugged her again about it. I was like, are you sure you don't remember turning those on? And she's like, no, I didn't. And she's like, now that you say it, she's like, I honestly thought you did because I saw a black shadow near those lights earlier today. Wow. And then and I didn't tell her that I saw like a black silhouette in broad daylight down the road on the way back home, like months ago. And I didn't tell her that. And when she told me that, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. Now, is it related? I have no idea. Am I making it all up? Absolutely not. But could it be absolutely nothing? It could be. I just have no idea.
In shadow people, and I think it's all part of the same high strangeness. I think, shadow people, cryptids, some religious encounters, stuff like that. I think it's all part of kind of like different faces of the same entity, and they appear to you however they want to appear to you at the time. It might appear to you as a light above the trees, or it might appear as a shadow person in your bedroom. It's kind of based off what Dr. Jacques Vallée talks about with high strangeness. I think it's all part of the same thing. Well, when you think about it, let's take shadow people, cryptids, religion, UFOs, ghosts, and the paranormal. What are the odds? So let's go on the premise, right? Not everybody who has ever seen anyone, they're all not just making it up. Maybe some are, sure. Even the majority probably are.
Yeah.
But not every person is making this up. Some of these people have at one point or another seen these entities for real. Yeah. So what are the odds that they are all separate and distinct paranormal, or whatever you want to call it, things? I find that way harder to believe than they're all the same thing, just different aspects of the same thing. I mean, that'd be bizarre if ghosts were different than UFOs, and cryptids were different than ghosts, and shadow people were different than UFOs. I mean, it's all got to be a part of the same thing. So, I definitely believe those things exist. Who's to say who's making it up, who's not making it up, who's just seeing something because their eyes are bad? Who knows? Right. But as a whole, I think all those things do exist. So, there is a probability that those things were shadow people in your house, turning off and on your lights, appearing on your lawn. Who knows?
Who knows? Could be anything. One last story I'll share that also happened in the house during the time I was trying out the meditation, like summoning, whatever you want to call it, this was weird. It was a night where I couldn't sleep. So I went out to the couch in the living room to try and fall asleep there. And it was probably about 3 a.m. And there are these two lights on each bed stand, or the night tables. I have a night table on each side of the bed. There's two standing lights on each one. They each have a metal string with a metal bead at the bottom of it, the light you pull to turn the light on. And every time you pull it, the metal bead will hit against the base pole of the light. And I know that because I turn the light on every day in that room at night, and it always clanks on the stand. And I'm out in the living room on the couch, and it's like 3 a.m. and I hear it. I hear what I think is the sound. And I heard it clink, as if somebody was turning the light on. My girlfriend's sleeping in there. And I go, okay, that's weird. And then I wait a couple minutes. I was like, let's see if it happens again. And then it does. And then I was like, okay, twice, whatever, could be anything. And I was like, if it does it a third time, I'm going to make sure Stephanie like isn't awake. Maybe she's doing something. Oh, sorry, that's my girlfriend's name. And sure enough, clank, like somebody's dangling the string on the light that's on the night table. And then I at that point, again, the same feeling, the heart is up in my throat. I get up off the couch and I'm you can laugh, I'm such a wimp. I was too afraid to walk in the room. I yell I don't yell, but I, with a loud enough voice that I wake her up. I was like, Stephanie, are you doing something in there? And she's like, no, I'm sleeping. Like, you just woke me up, you dumbass. Or sorry, you can edit that out. But
No,
that was, and that also happened. And I heard it 3 times. So, and then it stopped after I got up and woke her up. So weird.
Yeah, that's pretty weird indeed. All those things, and it all goes into one of the last questions I had for you. Basically, it was, after the sighting, did anything unusual happen in the following days? And it sounds like it did.
Well, years later, but when I was actively pursuing it, I would say, yeah. But immediately after, from 2022 to 2023, nothing really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jack, I mean, that was an incredible story. Thank you for coming on to share it with us.
Sure.
Where can people find you? What do you have going on?
I'm on Twitter, or X as it's called, UFO Jack. And I help out Martin at Podcast UFO. I'll be doing a live stream there tonight at 9. Feel free to join in, or whenever this airs or comes online. I usually do once a month on Podcast UFO. We talk about UFO current events, and that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. So everybody check out what Jack has going on. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe. We're on X at UAP Reporting Center. Obviously, we're here on YouTube. We're trying to grow the YouTube channel, so we appreciate everybody that clicks the button. But in the meantime, thanks for stopping by, and keep looking up.